Every day, global companies make decisions that affect people around the world. From cocoa farmers in West Africa, to factory workers in Asia, to fishing communities in Nigeria. Sometimes those decisions create opportunity. Other times they cause harm. But what happens when a company behaves unethically in a country where the legal system is weak? Are large corporations effectively above the law? In this video, we'll explore real cases involving Cadbury, Nike, Shell, and the United Nations to examine how ethics, law, and global responsibility collide in today's business world. Our first example is Cadbury, the well-known chocolate company founded in England in 1824. Cadbury became famous not just for chocolate bars, but for its roots in the Quaker tradition, a religious movement that emphasized fairness, honesty, and community values. Like most chocolate companies, Cadbury relies on cocoa grown in countries such as Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. Cocoa farming is challenging work, and farmers in these regions have long faced poverty, limited resources, and difficult working conditions. Yet, unlike many companies at the time, Cadbury invested heavily in improving the lives of the workers who produced their cocoa. They helped build better housing, schools, and sanitation facilities. They supported community development and worked to create safer, more sustainable farming conditions. What makes this important is that Cadbury was not required to do any of this. There was no international law forcing them to treat people well. Cadbury acted voluntarily based on their ethical principles. Their actions teach us an important lesson. The law sets a minimum standard of behavior, but ethics often asks us to do more. Cadbury shows that companies can choose social responsibility even without external pressure. Our second example is Nike, one of the largest sportswear companies in the world. Founded in 1964, Nike grew rapidly by outsourcing the manufacturing of shoes and clothing to factories in countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and China. This approach allowed Nike to produce goods at a lower cost, but it also exposed them to serious criticism. In the 1990s and early 2000s, reports began to surface about sweatshop conditions in some of the factories making Nike products, including very low wages, long workdays, unsafe environments, and worker mistreatment. These accusations drew public attention and threatened Nike's brand image. Instead of acknowledging the problems, Nike publicly denied the allegations. They released statements insisting that the workers were treated fairly, but evidence continued to emerge showing unsafe and harmful conditions. A California activist named Mark Caskey sued Nike, not for the factory conditions themselves, but for making false and misleading statements to the public about those conditions. Nike argued that their statements were protected as free speech, but the California Supreme Court disagreed. It ruled that when a company makes public statements about its products and business practices, those statements count as commercial speech and must be truthful. Nike eventually settled the case and was pressured to improve monitoring in its global supply chain. The core ethical issue here is deception. Even if denying the allegations helped Nike protect its reputation in the short term, misleading the public is ethically wrong. This case teaches us that honesty is a foundation of ethical business, and that lies, even legal ones, can cause real harm. Shell is one of the world's largest oil and gas companies. For decades, Shell has operated in the Niger Delta, a region of Nigeria known for its rich oil reserves, but also for high poverty levels and limited government resources. Oil production brings significant revenue to both Shell and the Nigerian government. But for many residents of the Niger Delta, the environmental impact has been devastating. The region's mangroves, rivers, and fishing areas are essential for local survival. In 2008, 2 major oil spills occurred from Shell's pipelines in the Bodo community. Thick, crude oil spread across the land and water, killing fish, destroying farmland, and polluting the environment in ways that made normal life impossible. Shell initially offered the community only food as compensation, even though the damage affected thousands of people and their long-term livelihoods. But here's the bigger ethical and legal issue. The Bodo community had almost no chance of winning a case against Shell in Nigeria. The local courts lacked resources, were extremely backlogged, and often could not stand up to a multinational corporation. With help from a law firm in the United Kingdom, the community took an unusual step. They sued Shell's parent company in the UK, arguing that the parent company had control over its Nigerian subsidiary. The UK court accepted the case, and in 2014, Shell agreed to a $55 million settlement, one of the largest payments ever made for environmental damage. The ethical problem highlighted by this case is justice inequality. Communities in poorer countries often lack the legal tools to defend themselves against powerful corporations. When companies know this, they may behave differently in those countries than they would in places with stronger legal systems. This case shows us how power imbalances can allow corporate wrongdoing, and how creative legal strategies can sometimes overcome those barriers. As more cases like Nike and Shell came to light, the United Nations created the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. Introduced in 2011, these principles outline how governments and companies should act to protect human rights. They are built on three ideas. Governments must protect people from harm. Companies must respect human rights everywhere they operate. And people who are harmed must have access to a remedy, a way to seek justice. These principles represent real progress. The problem is that they are voluntary. Companies may publicly support them, but there is no global enforcement mechanism. They cannot be punished by the UN if they ignore these standards. This highlights a major ethical challenge. Should global corporations be allowed to follow weaker standards in countries with fewer protections? Or should human rights be universal, no matter where a business operates? Together, these examples show us that companies are not entirely above the law, but holding them accountable often requires creativity, determination, and international cooperation. These cases also teach a deeper lesson. The law creates a baseline, but ethics asks companies to go beyond that baseline. Cadbury shows voluntary responsibility. Nike shows the harm caused by dishonesty. Shell reveals how vulnerable communities can be taken advantage of when justice systems are weak. And the UN's voluntary principles highlight the need for stronger global standards. As future business leaders, managers, or professionals, it's important to ask, what is legal and what is ethical? Those answers are not always the same. Responsible companies and responsible individuals must be willing to do what is right, not just what is required. Thank you for watching.